Athletes from 52 nations are gathered in Ghana, competing in the 13th African Games. The event is also part of the 2024 Paris Olympics. We'll catch up with sports journalist Dani Koranteng, who's covering the event in the Ghanaian capital, Accra. Dani, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for speaking to us. Just give us a summary of just how much excitement, what is the mood? Is it fever pitch? How much excitement are you getting in Accra around these games?
Obviously, this is the first time that Ghana is hosting the competition, so you expect the locals to be full of energy. They have properly patronized all the venues and the events. Obviously, most of us were waiting for the athletics to start. That is the marquee event or the biggest event when it comes to the Africa Games, and it has not disappointed. You talk about the major events in the athletics, the men's 100 meters and the women's 100 meters. Unfortunately for the local crowd, our home favorite Benjamin Azamati was unable to win a medal in the men's 100 meters. Emmanuel Esime of Cameroon stole the headlines and won that. In the women also, a Ghanaian failed to medal in the women's 100 meters. But Team Ghana sort of made up for it in the 4x100 meter relay. Although both men and women didn't win gold, losing out to Nigeria in both. The fact that they were able to dust off the pain of the individual sprint and then at least medal in the group relay was quite remarkable for Team Ghana. The only downside, if you understand the rivalry between Ghana and Nigeria, was the fact that Ghana lost both the relays to Nigeria. But aside that, the events have been very well patronized. Top-class facilities for a very long time in Ghana have now been seen. And then just to have the opportunity to invite the rest of Africa to Ghana has been such a remarkable experience. And the beautiful thing about this Africa Games is it's also provided some really beautiful stories also. Just like the AFCON we saw a couple of months ago. Not every singles has followed a certain trend. So we knew that, for example, in the women's singles tennis, for the last 17 years, it's been dominated by the North African countries. Today, a Kenyan won gold, Kotoye Angela, beating an Egyptian in the final. And that was the first time since 1978 that Kenya was winning gold in the women's tennis. So it just ends this very long run of North African countries dominating that sport. Although the men's singles tennis went to a Tunisian, Traoui, he did brilliantly to beat a Zimbabwean in the final. But as much as that followed the trend, the women's game saw something different, which sort of spiced up the atmosphere. And that is what most people also want to see. You look at table tennis and the fact that Nigeria have dominated men's table tennis for a while. This time, Egypt came in and they showed their prowess in that, dominating the table tennis event. So it's not been very straightforward, and that has provided opportunity for neutrals to have a lot of thrills in this competition. It's not basically exactly as I said, as straightforward as it seems, and it's just showing how.
Danny, you raise some important issues, which is how a tournament such as this is particularly exciting because it's not about those that have been headlined to win, so to speak, that are dominating, But there's always great support for the underdogs. But you also talked about AFCON, which was successfully held in January in Ivory Coast. So, and one of the things that many people spoke about was the successful organization of that event. So let's talk about this organization, the organization of this event. You've talked about this being Ghana's first event of this magnitude. How well has it been organized?
Yeah, obviously at the start there were some little bit of blips, but overall you could say that when you speak to athletes, you speak to officials, they seem fairly satisfied with what has happened so far. In terms of organization at various events, as I said, it's very normal to have some issues here and there, but when you look at the overall picture, you can tell there's genuine satisfaction with regards to the teams that have come in and their experience so far, not just the participating countries in terms of teams, athletes and officials, but also fans and people who've come outside Ghana just to come and witness it. They've given a fairly positive remarks as to the organization of the competition. So it's not something that has gone off what we expected. When you look at the preparation that was put in, I think I can sit here and say Ghana has done themselves some good, and notwithstanding some few issues that have popped up here and there.
Yeah, you speak about issues. There's been some disputes, from what we understand, around marketing revenue and ownership of the games between the African Union, ANOCA, and the AASC on the organisation and preparation of the event.
Yeah, that has been a sort of a long-standing issue. I don't think when you look at the actual preparation in terms of the work that has been put into this competition, I don't think that fight at the top had too much of a say or too much of an input in what we saw. The bottom line is the LOC have, although they face some challenges at the beginning of this whole organization, have managed to, at least up to this point, put together and produce the games that most people will look back and say they are proud of. And as I said, sometimes it takes time for some of these events to build up, especially when it's a multi-sporting event and you have a country that has a certain affinity for certain sports. When the lesser known sports, as we like to put it here in Ghana, start, it will take a bit of time for it to sort of endear itself to the local populace. But of course, when you look at the marketing that has been put in, not just from the LOC, but from the media here also trying to promote the games, you can tell it's had a telling effect on the people here, and they have properly patronized the game. So from an organizational point of view, you can say that is a good job. Yes, you talk about the political battle at the top when it comes to the ownership of these games, but I don't think it's had too much of a say or a telling in what we've seen in the organization of the games. I think it's been good so far.
So let's talk about the performance of the Ghanaian athletes, how they've done, and how are the medals table looking at the moment?
Yeah, it was a sort of a very slow start for Ghana. The first week was pretty slow. Ghana had our first 3 medals from weightlifting. Then it took a while, but arm wrestling sort of elevated Ghana from 16th place to 6th place on the medals table. 41 medals alone came from the arm wrestling. And since athletics started, Ghana has done pretty well. We've had a gold in the women's high jump with Rosie Eboa doing a brilliant job defending her title from 4 years ago. We've also had one silver medal in the 4x100 relay and a bronze in the 4x100 relay. We've seen some good performances. So Ghana was aiming for a top 5 finish in the medals table, and as it stands, we are in 6th place. 2 days to go, and we are still hoping that we can go past Tunisia. But I think the medals table has not really surprised a lot of people. The top 3 nations when it comes to medals in Africa, African Games history, Egypt, Nigeria, and South Africa have maintained their places at the top. They've been absolutely brilliant, especially the Egyptians at this competition. They've improved their medal haul over the years. When you look at averages, they are leading the table quite comfortably. South Africa have more medals than Nigeria in terms of cumulative medals, but Nigeria are ahead of the South Africans as by virtue of having more gold medals than them. So, and you don't think that will change when you look at the gap that Nigeria have given. I think Nigeria have 6 more gold medals than South Africa as it stands. And when you look at the events left, there are some very good Nigerians. They expect them to up their medal count. So I don't think the medals table will change too much, especially at the top. But from a Ghanaian point of view, obviously, I'm hoping that the last 2 days will see a miracle and maybe Ghana can get their target of finishing in the top 5. But top 10 is very, very good for Ghana, considering our history in this competition.
Dani, very quickly before we let you go, let's talk about the legacy of the Games. What does it do to inspire the next generation of young athletes, particularly in Ghana?
Look, it's huge, and that's what excites most of us over here. When you talk about the facilities that have been put in place here, we now have some top-class facilities, world-standard facilities. You look at athletics track, you look at the aquatic center for swimming, and this helps a lot of our young athletes to at least have a place to train, have high-standard infrastructure to train with, instead of always having the need to go outside the country to train with. So now it's just about equipping our local coaches, getting them up to the caliber to be able to imbibe that knowledge to the young athletes. And it's really looking good, and that's what excites us most. Now we have the infrastructure. Our athletes have shown by virtue of this competition that if they are given the support, they can rub shoulders with the best in Africa. So this will leave a very huge legacy. I will not be surprised if Ghana starts rubbing shoulders with the rest of Africa in the next 4-8 years when the Africa Games comes around again.
Dani Koranteng, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for speaking to us on Africa Today. Sports journalist Dani Koranteng, who's covering the 13th African Games, I beg your pardon, in Ghana. And he was speaking to us from the Ghanaian capital, Accra.